Hi, my name is Dr. Rosie Main, and I'm going to talk today about nutrition, specifically the concept of what we need to do, and try to make it as simple as you can so that you can actually start applying these changes. And so I'm going to be sharing my screen, and then if you can see a visual, typically that's a lot better. And so I will get that started in just a bit. So if you see here, this is Nutrition 101. A lot of you may be more advanced, but I always want to start with the foundational things we teach in our office, and I want to go over those things that are just very important to start really realizing. And with the 5 essentials of max living, we talk about everything from maximizing your mind, your nervous system, of course, nutrition, lean body tissue and oxygen, and minimizing toxins. So I always start with the mind first, because the biggest intent is to know your why. If you don't know or have a big why, the how doesn't matter. And a lot of times people, want to make changes, but our intent is either for losing weight or looking good in a Speedo. And even, those things can be good. The reality, they're not going to drive you to want to continue. And so sometimes when you don't feel like it, you don't do it because of your own emotions. So you got to have a bigger why. Why do you want to, feel good? Is there something you want to go do, or what do you value that's bigger than you? So finding your big why is huge. As a chiropractor, we know that the nervous system is never neglected in our office. We know that this is why we as chiropractors check the nervous system. It controls everything. And so I can put all the right nutrients, but if there's deficiencies in the way the brain communicates to those organs, it won't assimilate those nutrients. And so this is where we know that the first key thing after having a big purpose is also making sure that your body's functioning at 100% when it comes to your nervous system. So we call it that power that God put in the body to heal. And so, as you know, you can go a month without food, days without water, and minutes without air. But, the fact is if I cut that nerve that goes to your heart, literally it shuts off. And so that's that power that integrates everything. So that has to make, we have to make sure that that's functioning at 100%. So if you guys know Christopher Reeves, he's a primary example we use. When he severed his spine, it was at the brainstem. And so the fact is that he was paralyzed, but everything shut down, his heart, his lungs. So if your nervous system's not functioning, the truth is that he artificially was put this machine to, make sure his heart was beating and his lungs were breathing. But the reality is that in 9 years he died. And if you look at that picture with his wife, they were the same age there. At 50 years old, but he looked so much older, because even though outside in machines were keeping him alive, and man can do amazing things artificially, but it'll never be like that power that created us, that animates us. And so when we look at the nervous system, we want to make sure that there's no interference to the cord. And so if there is misalignments called subluxations, as our body starts to hover forward, here's a normal curve of a neck, or 43 degrees, as you can see the bridge here, it has that same arc. And what happens is when the posture starts to divert forward, it will start to create tension on the cord, the nervous system. So you can see here as our head shifts forward, it puts a lot of strain not only on the joints, because each inch your body goes forward, the weight of the head is harder to carry, and those joints start to deteriorate. But it also then starts to alter the nervous system. So we always ask, that you do your home rehab. And so it has to start with ergonomics, the way you sit, the way you sleep. As you see here, you want a posture when you sleep on your back, that your head is in relationship with your spine even. And the same thing on your side. The pillow shouldn't be too thick where your head props up too much. So when you sit on a desk, you want to be looking forward, and your head shouldn't be leaning forward. It should actually be looking up So this is another example right there. Squatting, functionally, the movements that we have, we're supposed to be able to squat all the way down, just like this child here, but we start losing the ability to because of uh, lack of flexibility. And so we want to maintain our heels flat when we pick up something, and make sure that we pick it up like we're squatting straight up. And so this is another way of doing it. If you really can't do it, you can do it by a lunge. And so this will prevent some injuries. And so this right here is showing you the spine when you have a normal arc. You can see the brain stem. There's no pressure on the normal view. But on phase one, if you lose that curve, which we call subluxation, it actually literally it puts pressure on that brainstem. And so sometimes people don't have pain here, but yet most people, they think they're fine, but the body's not functioning right. So, the truth is people leave this alone, and over time, because of that tension, as you see in phase two, those discs start to wear out and bulge into the cord, as you see in the arrows. Now you start feeling symptoms, and unfortunately, now your arm falls asleep, but the reality, those nerves also go to the thyroid, the lungs, in that area of the lower neck, and so then you start having more issues, and you go to the doctor, and then they'll look at the organ, and then they just will give you a drug or tell you that we're just going to have to rip this out instead of looking at what's causing it. And of course, here, phase three, that's somebody who's had degeneration for so long, they no longer have discs, that spinal cord is so withered, and there's extreme loss of that power, that life. And so this is what a normal spine should look like. And phase one, as you see here, is somebody who's lost that curve. And so we give you this equipment so that you can start actually doing these exercises. We give you a traction, which helps imbibe fluid in the discs. We do the head weights to help strengthen that posture. When you wear these weights, the muscles in your back of your neck start to counteract that pressure. And then, of course, the wobbling. We have wobble discs now that help with also hydration of the lower spine. And so going into nutrition and essential 3, which is the biggest factors, we've got to find out the 3 most dangerous things that we need to get rid of. And number 1 is too much sugar. And, the fact is we're just being bombarded with sugar. Too many toxins, and then not enough good fats. We've been taught that fat is bad, when in essence, the truth is that fat is good for us. So we got to break these myths. Many times people talk about genes. They say, so if my parents were sick, I'll suffer the same fate. I feel like genetics are, like the gun, and the trigger is a lifestyle. And so what's happening is we all have the same genetics, but why do some people turn on these genes? Is because of what we're doing, and this is called epigenetics. But when we talk about sugar, bad fats, and toxins, in a healthy cell, nutrients are able to go in and out of the cell, as you see there. But in a toxic cell, when you have too much sugar, too many bad fats, and too many toxins, you get a very sticky, congested cell where nutrients can't come in and out of the cell, creating a very sick cell, and therefore replacing itself with another sick cell and another sick cell that literally leads to cancer. So we want to break down other myths like counting calories. Calories mean nothing. It's quality of the food that you're eating. So for example, here you have almonds and you have a Twinkie, same calories, but the almonds have much more micronutrients and the Twinkie has none, other than lots of sugar and toxins. And so we're just consuming so much sugar, and it's not only just sugar, it's high fructose corn syrup that, this toxic sugar that's killing us. And so like you see here with cancer, a healthy cell should look vibrant. It should have an aura around it. But when you have so much, again, bad sugar, toxins, and also you add the the fact that we're just having so much bad fat, it will create this adapted cell or this cancer cell. And so that's creating what we're seeing so many people have is cancer, where your body will survive or try to by adaptation. So these cancer cells actually grow these receptors for sugar, and all it needs is sugar to be fed. And so this is what's creating a lot of sugar cravings. So the number one way to start killing this cancer is by actually taking away what it gets fed by, which is sugar. It doesn't, a cancer cell doesn't need oxygen. It doesn't need any nerve supply. It doesn't need anything. All it needs is sugar to actually live. So we want to get rid of these things that are creating the problem. So getting rid of sugar would be huge. So this is a live blood cell analysis of somebody's blood, and you can see on one side you have these cells clumped together because of so much acidity. They're not fluid, and they clump and they agglutinate. And the other slide where it should look like this, where the cells are separated and they're fluid, and typically on a live microscopy you can actually see them just dance around like they should. So acid creates this issue with our cells clumping up like this and creating a lot of just problems with our health. So again, all these acidic foods that we're having that have high sugar, lots of toxins and bad fats are creating this problem. So the more that we get alkaline, and so it's as simple as, green grass and dead grass. When you have, for example, a trash can that is clean versus a trash can that is dirty, the rats are going to be attracted by the dirty trash can. And so a clean trash can does not attract rats. The same thing with our bodies. The fact is that when your body is healthy and clean, you're not going to attract germs. But whenever you have a sick body that's filled with just trash and toxins and lots of sugar and an acidic environment, germs actually will accumulate, and will create issues with sickness. And so what do we need to do is start to actually learn how to read the labels. And so here it's showing you specifically what is in like this bar here that looks healthy because it says, it has calcium, and, it's a Nature, Valley. Of course, the marketing ploy is to get you to buy this by the label, yet you got to look at the ingredients. Before you look at anything else, you look at the ingredients, and as you can see here, the first ingredient is, rolled oats, but then it has high maltose corn syrup, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, like we needed to add more sugar, and then it keeps adding more sugar. And I think by the 10th item, maybe it's yellow cornmeal, because we have to now add dyes to it, canola oil, which is a very bad toxic oil. And so it goes on with all these dyes like red number 40. And so all this is so toxic. So you want to get rid of these things. And right now, the number one thing that people need to get rid of is pop. 55 gallons of pop per year is consumed in America. So getting rid of this toxic drinks, if you were just to make that one change, it would make a huge difference in your health. Like right here, it tells you, there's 62 grams in this Rockstar energy drink. That's equivalent to about 6 donuts. Right here, the Sobe green tea that most people think is healthy for you has 61 grams of sugar, and that's equivalent to half a pie. The Starbucks, the peppermint white chocolate mocha and whipped cream. You think, these things don't have calories, but might as well go have the 95 grams of sugar in ice cream. And that's 8.5 scoops of ice cream. That's just ridiculous, So worse than sugar is the fake sugar. People sometimes say, well, I won't have Coke, but I'll have Diet Coke. But all of these, low sugar or no sugar or sugar-free items typically have these sugar artificial sweeteners like Splenda and aspartame. And so The truth is that Splenda is not actually sugar. It's actually, it's a toxic man-made product. Other, things that you can do would be stevia or monk fruit. Those are the sugars you want to sweeten your drinks with, or your lemonade or your tea, if you're going to sweeten something. Another myth I want to break is that fat makes you fat. Again, fat doesn't make you fat. Actually, it's the inability to burn fat that makes you fat. And so we want to go back and know what good fats are. Things like you see ghee here, clarified butter, coconut oil, olive oil, sesame oil, avocado oil. And the bad ones would be things like corn oil or canola, soybean oil, vegetable oil, the margarine for sure, any refined oils, and of course, any hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, such as you find in Smart Balance, or butters that are artificial. And like you see here, they're showing you where the ants are attracted to real butter versus the margarine or plastic, really, that's what it is. And so you want to get on a good supplement. We have different ones that we recommend at the office. Another myth is that fat meats causes heart disease and osteoporosis and kidney disease. And actually, it's not saturated or meat that creates the issue. Again, it's what your meat eats that matters. And so we want to go back to getting good sources of meat, which we'll talk about. But the number one thing to get rid of is things that are processed, or hot dogs, bologna, the deli meats. Hot dogs cause all these cancers. So get rid of these commercial meats, and then change to animal that are fed, like, for example, grass-fed beef, free-range chicken, wild-caught fish, natural sources of dairy. You want, if you are going to supplement with proteins, you want to make sure that they're from good sources. We love SFH, whey protein, that is, it doesn't have casein, it's non-isolated, and again, a non-GMO, and it's grass-fed range cows that it comes from. And if you can't have dairy, then bone broth protein. We love Ancient Nutrition for that as well. We use these specifically like in our smoothies. Here's an example, one that we make often here in our office, but also for our kids, and has great fats like coconut milk, berries, which are very good in antioxidants, and as well as you can add spinach or kale, and then add the perfect protein or whey protein that we offer there in the office as well. Here's an example of some people who have lost not only a lot of weight, which is great, but the amount of fat percentage. This lady went from 52% body fat to 47%. So in about a couple of months. And so that's the stuff that we love to see. Another myth I want to break down is that cholesterol causes heart disease. And the fact is that cholesterol, again, is not the problem. It's the oxidation of cholesterol that becomes the issue. You need to have cholesterol. Another myth is that grains, should be eaten about 5 to 8 servings. We're going to actually find out that grain is actually very inflammatory, and so we want to get rid of some of these grains and go back to actually ancient kind of grains that are not like modern wheat, which are first genetically modified, but also just have been altered so much, so they're higher in carbohydrates than the ancient grains like you find in Ezekiel bread. And of course, you would get rid of the processed stuff like white breads. Here showing you actually Subway's has become very popular, but Subway's bread actually has the same components of a foam yoga mat because of the chemistry on it. And so it's just toxic. So get rid of that kind of stuff. The other thing is that the FDA and the USA effectively protect the general public is another myth. I have to make sure you've been lied to. The FDA has been bought by Monsanto, excuse me. And so the fact is that all these companies are not there to watch out for you. It's whatever pays them first. And so Start thinking for yourself, start learning, listen to these kind of webinars. Toxic foods, that's another thing that we want to start shifting away from, things that have been altered by man. Again, even good quality plants and vegetables and fruits have been, genetically modified. So look at the labels. We do Shop with Docs, where we show you to actually get rid of things that have been genetically modified. By the serial number, it should have a 9 in front of it. An 8 is genetically modified, and a 4 has pesticides, which are very dangerous additives and affect your hormones. And so another myth is that eating healthy is boring. We do so many classes to just show you, nutrition classes, recipe classes, to show you how amazing this food can be. I want to talk about a ketogenic diet. I know most of you know that I just wrote, actually I became an Amazon bestseller, the Mexiquito book. This book shows you how to eat delicious Mexican food, and so we have that in our office, or you can find it on Amazon. But it's all about going back and eating more fat, and good quality fat, that is, not hydrogenated fat, and getting rid of the carbohydrates, specifically the refined, getting rid of all sugar, and even most fruit except for berries and green apples. And so as you see here, you're going to have lots of avocado, lots of nuts, lots of good fats, good quality vegetables and good quality sources of protein. And this is not a high protein diet. In essence, you're only going to have like maybe, 15 to 20 grams per meal. And so it's a very low carbohydrate diet, where you will only have 20 to 50 grams per day, versus the one that you see here to avoid, where it's filled with lots of anti-nutrient carbohydrates. So in the office, we call it the core plan or the advanced plan. The core simply means going back to good quality food. We call it God food versus man food. If it's made by man, just throw it out. And so this is just healthy for everybody in the family. Versus the advanced, it's mainly intended to get rid of that inflammation. And so getting rid of not only just some sugars, but all sugars and things that turn to sugar is going to be the key to this. And this is what's going to break the inflammation and actually start restoring health, where we see many people get to the point where they don't have to depend on medication. So it's as simple as this. With the advanced plan, you're going to eliminate grains, sugars, and fruit, except for, again, berries and green apples. Even healthy grains, again, no Ezekiel bread is allowed. There is some carbohydrates you can have that are from vegetables, cruciferous vegetables. And the protein, again, you want to replace it with natural sources, and you don't want to have excess, because this protein can turn into sugar if not utilized. And typically most people are not working out enough to utilize a 12-ounce steak. And so it turns to glycogen and then turns to fat. So, and then you do want to remove the bad fats, but replace them with good fats, which is about 70% of your diet. Your brain is made of fat. It needs a lot of good quality fat. And which foods to avoid? Of course, you're going to avoid in both core and the advanced plan, all things that contain toxins. Like you see these cupcakes, all those colors are toxins. They contain trans fats. They're rancid. They're processed. They have tons of sugar. And so get rid of that. So you have to read the label. Just because it looks good for you doesn't mean it's good for you. So you want to make sure you look at this. Like right here, if you look at the ingredients, automatically organic, roasted, unblanched Phylacea peanuts. So roasted, I'd rather you have raw nuts and seeds. Like Skippy here, it tells you no trans fats. So the issue is that, they're telling you right there in the label it doesn't have trans fats, yet if you look at the ingredients, it says right there, the first ingredient is roasted peanuts, soybean oil, hydrogenated vegetable oil, which is the bad fat, the trans fat. And so get rid of these kind of things so they can lie to you. So you want to pick up a book. We have several books in our office that talk about the keto diet or the advanced plan. This is one of many. And come to the workshops that we have in our office. We always have shopping lists that we make available for our patients, or whoever wants to come to our Shop with Docs. We actually go and show you how to shop for these foods. So you got to get with it. The other essential in our office is exercise. I mean, you can eat right and try your best, but you also have to exercise. So we teach a high intensity, short duration workout where it's all about high intensity of 20 seconds on and then 20 seconds off. So short duration, this is only 12 to 15-minute workout. And the whole intent with that is to raise growth hormone and to raise testosterone, to increase lean body tissue. And when you work out in these shorter periods of time, so you're not producing so much cortisol, that creates a problem with the way you exercise, but it also helps increase oxygen intake because of the high intensity, and then also build muscle tissue. So implementing these kind of things are key. And lastly here, I want to talk about toxicity. I know toxins are, I mean, it could be a class in itself, but just in general, you want to get rid of the toxic top 5, which we want to talk about. Number 1 is getting rid of a microwave. If you have a microwave, it's so toxic. Start heating things with a cast iron pan, or, get rid of this stuff. It actually has so many, not only EMFs, but it alters your food. Phthalates that come from Tupperware and plastics, get rid of those things. Start using glassware. Try to use glassware that's not painted. Some of this has some lead that is creating some issues. So dishes from China typically have these kind of things. You want to get a good detox supplement. We love IDS. This actually helps cool those toxins from your liver. Glutathione is produced from a lot of cruciferous vegetables that have a thiol group, and so then it binds them, and then you have the binder, which is like activated charcoal, then gets this out of your system. So this is a daily supplement that I would recommend everybody on if they're not juicing themselves. So we always give our patients the ability to get this at 50% off in our office. If you have come to the Nutritional Workshop, or if you've listened to this, give us a call. And so that is basically our session here. And so we want to make sure that you come to the classes, just continue to learn. Again, this is just a simple one-on-one, little nutrition workshop that I gave you here, but there's so much to learn, and so we're continuously doing these workshops for you. So hopefully this helps, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and you have a great day.